Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast, the show for people who want to live sustainably without the global overwhelm. We're here to lighten your environmental load. We celebrate local sustainability across Australia and connect you to the solutions and people already doing great things for a healthier planet. Living sustainably starts with good humans like you, people who care about the natural environment, our communities, and the everyday spaces we live in. Each conversation helps you feel reassured that living lighter on the planet is achievable and genuinely feels good to be a part of. From the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people in Newcastle, Australia, join me, Marty Lee, as we explore how to consume less, build stronger community connections, and thrive in your neighbourhood, wherever you call home. Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Hello, my name is Marty Lee and welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Mass-produced chipboard and MDF are basically designed to end up in a skip bin once it's damaged. But real timber is different. It's resilient to those minor dents. With a simple sand and a fresh coat of oil, those years of wear add to the timber's story of life. In this episode, we're stepping inside the workshop of a verified social enterprise. Joining the conversation is Luke Mitchell and Peter Jorgenson, co-founders of Among the Trees, a Sydney-based timber reuse business that's committed to keeping quality wood out of landfill so it can be salvaged and made into something new. They're building a community of timber lovers through educational workshops and have a collective of woodworkers and creative artisans in their space. Let's discover how we can bring rescue, repair and purpose back into the way we value and build with timber. G'day, Pete.
G'day, Marty. How are you?
G'day, Luke.
G'day.
Let's start with the typical why you started the business. How did you get to this point to where you are today?
It
sounds like it's already been a journey.
certainly has already been a journey for sure. So we actually all met, the five of us who were initially involved in starting the business in another business that had sort of like a similar kind of leaning, and that business sort of kind of quite suddenly shut down, and we sort of saw the opportunity to take what was working in that business, add some things of our own, and start something in the space that was essentially left by that business leaving. 4 years later, here we are. We've kind of gone through a whole bunch of changes and worked out a lot of stuff along the way, but I think at the core, it is actually still the same business that we set out to do.
So the main business idea was to rescue timber from landfill. How did that idea eventuate? Like, why was that the big thing?
Yeah, I guess like all five of us had an interest in and a bit of a background in working with timber, with recycled timber. There are other places out there that do recycling of a lot of other materials. There are places that do recycled timber too, but I guess I don't know if you've got a better answer to this than me, but I think it was a material that we were all already familiar with and had attachments to begin with, and could see it going in the bin and thought there was an opportunity to intervene.
I have a background in reuse used to work for an organisation called the Bauer Reuse and Repair Centre, and they did all sorts of things, and I kind of developed a love of timber through that space. And so, I'm interested in reuse more generally, but timber as a product is a pretty amazing thing.
I love timber as well. I find it has got such warmth and character to it. And obviously you do, this is the whole business concept, but one of the things that you've asked your business followers is, what's your favourite tree and why is it your favourite tree in the area? So I'm going to ask that back to you guys. What's your favourite tree or what's your favourite tree and why? And then we can talk about what your favourite piece of timber is and why.
My favourite specific tree would be, there's a Sydney blue gum that is behind my house where I live. It's the tree that was parent to our mascot, which is a little Sydney blue gum out the front sitting in a pot. Yeah, I love this tree because it's sort of where I live. I'm surrounded by factories and I can see a sort of a patch of sky in this tree, and in the afternoon the lorikeets come in, and in the evening the flying bats come in. It's just kind of like a really nice bit of contained nature in a city environment.
I don't have necessarily a specific tree to talk about, but the tree that I guess is most meaningful to me would be the Norfolk pine, which is actually not a timber tree what is a timber tree, but not one that we work with. But I grew up on Norfolk Island till I was 14. So yeah, that tree has a real meaning to me, and it always grows next to the sea, which is again, that's how I remember growing up. So yeah, that would be my attachment tree for sure.
It really just shows how trees have a story of the place where you live, place where you grow up. You've both shared a story that trees have something to do with place, which makes it even more reason why we need to value some timber. So when you look at timber, which is different to a tree, timber is that the right word that you use to describe what comes from a tree?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
So what is your favourite timber, the one that gives you that, oh, I love it, what can I do with this moment?
Look, I actually think that it's kind of, to me, important to note that that there isn't, in my mind anyway, a difference between the timber and the tree. I think that's is even potentially part of the issue is looking at that material of timber without actually associating it back to the living kind of tree that it came from. That makes it really easy to go out there and go to big box store and buy a whole bunch of lumber and not actually think about where it's coming from. So for me, the timber is the tree. The most kind of impressive piece of timber or pieces of timber that I've seen in here was an Australian red cedar or Tuna ciliata tree that we got in these gigantic boards of 6 meters long. We had 7 of them from a church in Paddington, I think. To be working with timber of that size and that volume is just something that I don't think that I will ever see again. The church was built in the mid-1800s. The tree was felled maybe minimum 20 years probably before that to dry it. And then before that, it was probably growing for upwards of 1,000 years. So that is just the kind of cool thing, I guess, to see and be working on. So it's a very rare tree, that's part of it, but more of it is, I guess, the concept of how much time is in that board.
Absolutely, the story makes a big difference and that appreciation. And it sounds like with whatever you do with that piece of timber, you do it with greater respect because it holds a lot more meaning and you know that it came from a proper tree.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess, I don't know, that kind of thing for sure, gave me shivers when I first sort of started working with them, and actually realized at a certain point that all 7 of those boards would have to have come from the same tree as well. So yeah, I don't know, to think about the environment, there's a pre-European environment in Australia as well that tree grew in. It's hard not to feel kind of reverent about it, I suppose.
Luke, what would be your favourite piece of timber to work with or give you that aha moment?
I don't often think of timber sort of like that, I suppose. I think it's more about where it's come from. So there's numerous different varieties of timber that we get in, but as long as it's salvaged and it's being reused, that's the most important thing to me. And all the different timbers have different properties, and you kind of, I think, working with that material and the differences in that material and finding ways to use it. And often there might be some features of reclaimed timber that you kind of have to work around. That's the kind of thing that interests me. Somewhat to mirror what Pete said, though, we do get a lot of old growth Oregon in here, which is Douglas fir, which came from the sort of northwest part of the States, used in construction industry a lot. And again, some of those trees are, 1,000 years old, and that the history and the kind of what it's taken to produce this material, which can't be replicated very easily without chopping down old growth forests, which we want to try and avoid, is pretty cool.
So working with salvaged wood has no doubt a different mindset approach to what you can do with it and how you work with it.
Yeah, sometimes, but sometimes not as well. Sometimes it's you can just work with it as timber. The quality of the stuff we get in here is great. It's beautiful Australian hardwoods. And so in many cases, you don't have to worry about that too much. Sometimes you'll get knots and nail holes and and splits and stuff that you have to be selective with. You have to understand timber to be able to work with it, but you should be able to understand timber, or you should understand timber to work with it anyway. So in many ways, it's not that much different from working with new.
The only real difference that could be seen in any kind of like complication, I suppose, to work around with this kind of material, to my mind anyway, is the variability in sizes. So at a certain point, you have to sort of, like when we're talking, say, for the custom stuff that we do, you start from the available material and work backwards to a design rather than, starting from a design and then just picking out the pieces that fit that design. So you do have to do that with new timber anyway, but there is more variability in what we do. Yeah, just another sort of little added layer of creativity, I guess.
Your main mission is to rescue timber from landfill and give it a good life, continued extended life. When you have people come into your space, what else do they see is the main reason why they come here?
It is sort of a hard question to answer because this is the environment that I know and that I am used to. It does become quite normal to you to be in here. But when I've had sort of like friends come down or family or just members of the public, I suppose, that I think one thing that we do that sometimes it can be challenging to find in these kind of environments is it's very accessible, and you've got people here who are like completely here to talk to you about the material and talk through your ideas and creatively find ways sort of together to get to where you want to be or design and build the thing that you want to build. I mean, I have people who think that it's the most amazing thing in the world that I return their phone calls when I miss the call, like I think it's, we're just sort of constantly trying to be like, you can do this, this is open to you.
I think the phone calls thing just shows that connection. People are after people connection, and who would have thought that just that a phone call about timber, that people would actually relish in that. And that's one of those side effects of what you didn't even know would be a part of it.
I think maybe it's also worth, and probably you can talk to this a little bit better as well, about like, we get approached by so many people who it's sort of like so many people have somewhere in their family a history of like, my dad or my grandfather or my ancestor in this way or the other was a carpenter or built this with wood or had a shed full of tools or things like that. So there's for sure people walk in and see like what's on the shelves in the classroom in here, which is all sort of donated tools and things like that has a real kind of, it's just a memory connection there. People want to give us stuff, so we use it rather than, it's kind of just a continuation. If you've got like if you've got a grandfather who had a shed full of tools, there's a sentimental attachment for sure for anyone really. People come in here and they want have things that they want to continue to be used. It attracts that sort of person, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the sentiment for me is that my granny had a glory box. Now, she was born in 1921, I think it was. So her glory box is probably from the 20s or the 30s. And 5 years ago, I decided that I didn't need a glory box. I'm well and truly past glory box age. It took up a lot of space in our house, and so I dismantled it. But I did it like pulling apart the different layers of upholstery and then got to the timber. And of course, no wonder it was so heavy because it's like solid wood. And this is back 20s and 30s. So I've still got that timber for that whole memory kind of thing. And also thinking this is quality stuff. Don't know what to do with it yet, but I'm sure I'll find something to do with it.
Is it just raw timber? Like have you taken the box apart?
Yeah, I've taken the whole box apart and it's raw timber. Yes, it hasn't been painted or anything.
What is a glory box?
Oh, good question. Yeah. Glory box was like back in the old days when the women were planning like to get married instead of on the means that they'd be prepared for their life once they're married. They've already got their dinner set and they've got their
right.
accoutrement things for the wedding and for their starting their new life.
So it's like a chest kind of thing.
It's a chest. It's essentially a big timber chest, or they put bed sheets or serviettes or napkins or something. They put a whole collection of stuff like what you get for a wedding these days or wedding presents. They'd collect that for years to come and go, oh, that's for the glory box.
Cool.
In the view that they were going to get married and move out of home. So that's what a glory box was.
You should definitely repurpose that timber by coming to one of our classes and learning how to use it and making something from it.
Yeah, and I'd love to do that because it has such meaning. That whole timber has meaning, and I do not want to throw it out. And I feel like being one of your customers of, yes, I don't want to put that into landfill either, but then I would know that by coming to one of your workshops, I would feel like I'm a part of other people who would think the same as me.
Yeah, and you can make it into something that would last a long time and would turn it into another kind of heirloom piece, which would be nice. There's a big nostalgia with the space. We do get a lot of people poking their head in going, I had to come in because of the smell of timber and linseed oil. I reckon, 30% of the people that come in through the doors say that, which is interesting.
And so what's the linseed oil for?
Linseed's for finishing timber. Yeah, it's like a finish. But it's an evocative smell for a lot of people.
Why was it important for you to become a verified social enterprise?
It was important just to get recognition and for what we do. We always got into this, like I guess we described it as a purpose-driven business. When we started, we didn't really know what a social enterprise was. So it was great when we found that out, when a mate kind of got us onto that. It's good for the verification and the recognition, but the thing I found interesting is having a framework for what that actually means. So actually having some I guess parameters around what you need to do to be a purpose-driven business, and that was useful to us. But it was also, I found it kind of exciting that was out there for other businesses to find and go, oh, cool. Well, that's not the biggest ask in the world to try to tick those boxes, and that it would perhaps encourage other businesses to think about people and planet above profits.
What's the difference between cheaper timbers, chipboard and MDF compared to treated pine, structural pine, hardwood? Can you just do a brief explanation of the different timber types and what they mean?
I guess there's a few ways to think about like kind of differences between kinds of material in the timber under the timber umbrella. So things like your manufactured materials, you ply, MDF, chipboard, things like that.
Because you take plywood, don't you? Do you take all sorts of
We
plywood?
take very small amounts of plywood, yes. So the one thing about plywood is that it's quite hard to recycle because it gets damaged a lot on sites. Every now and then we are approached with something that is usable, but honestly, most of the time it's quite hard. Those sheet materials are generally pretty hard to reuse. They're also, particularly in the case of things like MDF and chipboard, they're full of glues and things that again just add levels of complexity in reuse. Particularly in the case of plywood, I don't write them off in any way. There's use cases for sheet materials that are just the right material for the job. There's an affordability factor there that's always important to mention, because I think affordability is an important aspect of any sort of design, I guess. There's sort of other differences, I suppose, between the kinds of solid timber that we're working with and what you might find in like your large hardware store or timber yard. I would say the main difference is going to be the age of that material that you're working with. And I don't mean because it's sort of, been sitting as a roof rafter or floor joist or something. I mean, the amount of time that it took just for that tree to grow. So most of the solid timber that you'll find kind of new grows really fast, and it will be, it'll be different colors to the old stuff. It'll be different densities. It'll be generally kind of less stable. Timber dries over time, and the older it is, the more stable and the less it moves.
So when you say less it moves, do you mean like expands and contracts with perhaps just the natural humidity, weather?
Yes, that is exactly what I mean. Yeah. It's another one of the cool things about timber is timber always moves, and you have to sort of think about it as a living artifact in your home. and it will expand with as it takes on a little bit of moisture, and it will contract as it releases that moisture with just changes in humidity in your environment. So it's something that is in some way adapting and changing to the environment that it's surrounded in, the same environment that you are in your home.
When people talk to you about that you've got recycled timber here or timber to be reused, and then there might be a bit of a shock to the system in terms of the difference between the cost of repurposed or recycled timber compared to what you can buy brand new. What's your usual response to that?
Yeah, I guess it can be more expensive than people are expecting. It can also be a hell of a lot cheaper than people are expecting as well, So a lot of the time people are just as surprised in the other direction. When you start to systematize something and do it, like kind of put it through a regular process and batch it in terms of efficiency, you can actually bring the price of those materials down. Recycled timber has for a really long time had this sort of like luxury price tag, and that's because people are only doing it in small volumes, and you need big setups to do a relatively small volume, which is the same for us. But we are able to do it at a sort of volume that we can kind of meet somewhere in the middle between the like much higher price. We also do quite a lot of, or did earlier on, do quite a lot of research into what would you expect to pay for new timber? How do we compare to that? And how can we make it more affordable? So it's always been part of what we wanted to do. And in many cases, you're getting timbers here for better prices than you will get them anywhere else. It's not always the case, but it can be. So I guess if people are concerned about price, we always have options that are more economical as well, So there might be some compromises to make in terms of, your design or...
But it also comes down to what your value and your core mission is. And if your core mission is to save timber, good quality timber from going to landfill, then there's that component as part of the pricing as well.
For sure, yeah.
Would you see that you have any competitors, or do you see competitors as collaborators? How does that work?
I'm a big believer in, particularly because we're trying to do something worthwhile, in trying to have collaborators over competitors. But it can be difficult sometimes when you're running a small business and you're busting your gut and you've got bills to pay. Sometimes you do kind of want to vanquish your enemies, for lack of a better term. But that's something that, like, I genuinely try and be a better person with. But it's hard when you're running a business. You want to, you want people to come to you and use your product and stuff, and it's sort of easy to want other people to, as a result of that, to not get those customers. But we try really hard to be collaborative as much as we can.
Just before we started recording this podcast episode, there was a networking event here at your workshop where there was a dozen or so people finding out a little bit more about Among the Trees. And from that networking meeting, there was a lot of questions coming up about what the potentials are that you could do with the timber, what you do in your workshops, what you can offer to people. But interestingly, there was one person who said there's the potential for making coffins.
Yes.
And that's something that you thought of in the past before. But like that, would that be seen as a really positive way forward as a collaboration?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. That gave me tingles and maybe a little bit teary-eyed, actually, just thinking about the potential of that. Yeah, like collaborations like that are amazing. Yeah, being able to work with other organisations, sort of utilising the material that we have and, just making that material available for us is really important, but also then being able to take that material and use it to other sort of beneficial ends is really great. And that definitely got my cogs turning thinking about that. Like, I think that'd be a really beautiful thing to do. Reclaim timber, we could do it with all kind of natural adhesives and stuff that would break down. And I just thought that sounded really interesting. So collaboration in that regard, don't get me wrong, I love collaboration, but if I shine a light on my inner soul, there is a darkness there too.
I guess on the subject of collaboration versus competition, this area and the woodworking community in this area is like super tight knit. even with businesses that are like literally directly competing with each other, doing almost identical things. We got invited to a Christmas party last year of like all of the furniture manufacturers in the area, which is kind of like, I don't know, maybe that happens in other places, but I'm not, that's all furniture makers all within this same sort of probably 2-kilometer radius, same client base, obviously big differences in what they do, but in many ways direct competitors, and they all just want to sit down and hang out. And there was an exhibition around the corner of a new furniture maker that was kind of like launching a range of products, and I went for a walk around there, and you've got like the owners of every furniture maker in the area who are there just to support somebody else doing it. There's a furniture maker across the road, Garth at Wildwood, who has been like just so generous with his advice. And if I have things that I don't know how to do, he will tell me how to do them, even to the extent of like, oh, I've identified this sort of gap in the market, and this is a thing that you could be doing that like I'm also doing it, but we could be doing it. So yeah, that sort of thing, that definitely surprised me for sure, as like a community rather than kind of competition area.
When you have workshops such as the Douglas Snelling chair workshop or the Danish weaving workshop or the upholstery workshop, what really makes you excited when people have done their work and are walking out of here with a completed piece?
Oh, I get to go home.
Apart from you get to go home.
No, there's a bit of that, because I still get a little bit anxious before courses, and I get a bit of imposter syndrome. So it's like nice to have a course done and go, oh yeah, that was good. I can do this. So it's not entirely a throwaway statement. The thing I like about the teaching aspect here is that, there's a couple of things. One, it's nice to be able to kind of empower people with skills that they think are very inaccessible. A lot of people, men and women, like my mum always talks about how her brothers got taught all these sort of handy things and her and her sister didn't. But there's a lot of guys out there as well that sort of never had someone that showed them these skills. And so to be able to share that knowledge is a really cool thing. And it's good to see people kind of find out that it's not that difficult.
There's a lot of men's sheds around, and I've had many people ask me, where else can they go that's not a men's shed? Because men's sheds are for men and they're primarily for older men just because of the time frame. And the opposite of that seems to be women's sewing shops or sewing workshops. And so the accessibility to have workshops here that caters to every age and to everyone.
We try very hard to be accessible and inclusive. Just on the note of men's shed, there is a women's shed down in, I always forget the names, down south. It's called the Fix It Sisters Shed. So if you're a girl or a woman out there that wants to do that sort of thing, that's a plug. But yeah, we try to make our courses accessible. We have a rent-a-bench program, which if you've done one of our courses, you can come in of an evening. There'll be one of our facilitators there, and it's not a structured course per se, but it is an opportunity for you to come in, use the tools, use the space, and work on your own things and kind of continue practicing. So we're trying to make something like that here.
What is the reality of trying to be a truly sustainable, small, Australian-made, Australian-owned business?
I mean, it's hard work. It's really, really hard work. But that could be said about any business, really. To make it truly sustainable, I think you just got to do your best. Like, every kind of footstep you take in the modern age, I reckon, in some way is unsustainable or sort of incurs suffering in some way, shape or form. So you just got to try your best, I think. A positive is, there's a couple of positives. I'm really proud of what we've built here. And as much as it's really hard work, I love my job. There's not many places that you can come and I get to teach people about working with reclaimed timber using restored old hand tools, which is kind of my weird jam, which I like doing. That's amazing.
I don't know. I think Lucas said what I would say about the realities in terms of it is really hard work. But I guess sort of, the thing that kind of keeps me coming back is the design challenge of it. And I really enjoy working with the crew that we've got now to try and solve those challenges, because I guess the sustainability aspect of it is just another design element, and how we can incorporate that element as well as, you know, any other design element that we're thinking about. That's something that excites me and kind of keeps me coming back, I guess.
Yeah. And I think the reality is the impact is great in terms of the environmental impact. You are helping timber not go to landfill and increasing the cost and filling up land. They take up a lot of space, right? They're pieces of timber. And at least you're able to reuse that good quality product. For listeners who have timber at home and they don't know what to do with it, but they may not be in Sydney at all, what would be your one simple tip to encourage people to not throw their timber out, but to use it again?
Yeah, I mean, you can put it online, like Gumtree or something like that, for people to find. Start your own reclaimed timber business up there.
That's a bit cool.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be more places like us. Like, another thing that I really like about this is that we are helping to support a circular economy. And there's lots of businesses doing that, lots of little businesses doing it, but ultimately these little businesses need to turn into bigger things, or more of them, so they can actually effectively tackle the entire problem. So start your own reclaimed timber business, or start some kind of, talk to your council about starting some kind of recycling program for timber. It gets put at a side at the tip and you can go and buy it for, I don't know. Yeah, there's lots of things.
It's like a hyper-local component, isn't it? It's like taking your business and putting it into another area, and then another area and another area.
Yeah, well, and it's just everyone having a go to do their bit to try and make the world slightly better than how they found it, as my mother, Meryl Rogers, would say.
I like it. You need wise words from family.
Yeah. That was my meaning of life advice from Mum. But yeah, everyone just try and do their bit.
Pete, what's your one simple tip?
I would say that my one kind of idea or tip would be to just look around for the community that often already exists around this kind of material, or reuse in general. And, on the subject of mums, my mum has in the past sort of 6 months or so joined the local women's shed in the Northern Rivers, and where she had like kind of timber that she was storing at her house, she's now starting to send me pictures of, I just put this thing through the planer and look at how cool that is. And just finished building some of her first projects, like shelves for the walls and things like that. So you'd probably be surprised at, if you are interested in this, so is someone else, and someone else is keen to do it.
That circle of influence. You are an influencer, and I think that's really important for everyone to remember, is that your one good thing that you do and the thing that you talk about and love and most passionate about then feeds on and feeds through to people around you.
Yeah, agree.
Thanks, Pete, for your time.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks, Luke, for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the ReNewy Living Podcast. I hope you're feeling more confident and invigorated about taking a localised approach to living sustainably. Head over to my website, renewyliving.com.au, for this episode's summary and the relevant links. My ask to you is to follow or subscribe to the ReNewy Living Podcast so you can tune in to every episode. And by sharing the episodes you love, it's an easy way to help more people join the conversation about sustainability. I look forward to sharing more stories with you, ones that help lighten your environmental load and feel great to be a part of, so we can build a healthier planet for good. In people and planet kindness, from me, Marty Lee, this is the ReNewy Living Podcast.